Okay, welcome everybody. I think we're ready to go now that Ray can get on. Yay. It's great to
Yeah,
see you, Ray.
great to see you. This is so much fun. This is the second blab I've ever done.
Awesome. You're almost a blab virgin.
It's going to be the best.
No. Well, now that we got you a link to get in,
So I love that you got the backdrop and everything. You're a pro.
see? You don't want to see what's behind there.
You, show me.
It's just a wall, actually. Plain white wall. So let me introduce everybody to Ray because I've known Ray from afar for a long time, and I've been a student of his. I've taken a few of your courses, bought a lot of your products. And first, before we get started, Ray, I really want to talk about something that happened 3 years ago. This month, I was laid off from my job 3 years ago, almost to the day. And then a month later, my mother passed away. And then in April, you had an event in Phoenix, and I went, and I was like really mixed about going because I was just emotionally a wreck. And it was the most amazing weekend I ever had. You are just an amazing guy. You gave me a big hug at one point, and you said a prayer for me and my mother. And I'm going to cry now, so I got to stop. But that meant so much to me. I was at such a really bad emotional place at that. And that event was just perfect. It was right time. And you're just the most amazing guy. And thank you very much for that.
Well, thank you for saying that. And that was an amazing event because of the people like you that were there. That's what made it amazing. And I can't believe it's been 3 years. We need to do another one.
Yeah, it was. You tricked me because you said we're going to be writing copy and we're going to leave with the sales letter completed. But it went more into life and what your purpose is and, why we're here and what we're going to give back.
And we did write copy.
Yeah, a little bit.
Just to be clear, we did write copy, but it was, we're complete human beings. We have a whole life. We have emotions. We have a spiritual part of ourselves. We have relationships with other people. And this all affects how we write copy and how we market. And if we try to pretend it doesn't, then we're not being truthful. So I like to address the whole picture.
Yeah.
That's what you experienced. And
you do it so well. And if people want to hit the little tweet on the left column there and tweet this and post it on Facebook, get some more people involved. And if you have questions, /Q. And I'm just going to ask Ray some questions and we're going to have a nice conversation. If you want to jump in, feel free. We want this to be everybody jump in and participate. But let's start at the beginning, Ray. A lot of people don't know what copywriting is if they're not in marketing.
Oh, that's true. Even at that event you were talking about, there was one gentleman who came because he thought he was going to learn how to protect his songs from being stolen by other artists. And I had to explain to him, no, it's not that kind of copyright. That's different. That's protecting your intellectual property. This kind of copywriting is about writing persuasive words that sell your products, your services, or your ideas. And the term comes from the world of advertising. It used to be I had to explain this more in depth, but now I can just ask people, do you ever watch Mad Men? And usually they say, oh, yeah. Remember the copywriters from that show? Yeah, that's what we're talking about, writing ads. Although we don't behave nearly as badly as those guys did.
That was quite a time, wasn't it?
That was a different era. And in many ways, it's a good thing it's behind us.
So you made a big career shift a few years back and became a copywriter. What were you doing before that?
I was in the radio broadcasting business. I started out as a disc jockey when I was 14 years old. And I became a program director and a station manager and then a vice president of a company and vice president of another company after that, and had a lot of fun. But, the industry changed and this thing called the internet came along, Ted. And if you remember how that went, suddenly everybody had a radio station in their pocket. Only this radio station played only the music you liked. There were no commercials and there were no annoying DJs. So that pretty much was the end of the radio business for me. And I just took all my skills and transferred them over to the internet. And it's been a wonderful, fun ride. And the exciting thing is that you, me, everybody on this blab, people like Roman and people like Lynn and Jeff and some of the other folks I see here, you can all have your own radio station, your own TV station for $8 a year. Wow. What a time we live in.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I have an Apple TV channel now, if you don't know that.
I didn't know that.
It's called Social Selling TV, and this is going to be one of the shows on there.
I have a confession to make.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't actually bought an Apple TV yet.
Well, they want to be the next Netflix. So they're letting people create their own content and channels.
Okay, so now I have to have one. I'm going to the Apple Store as soon as we finish this podcast, or
Yeah.
Blabcast, or what do we call this? Blab.
This is
Blab.
a blab. We're blabbing. I guess it's a verb now. Like Google. So what intrigued? Why did you want to become a copywriter? Why are you passionate about it?
Well, I didn't understand that this is what I was into at the time. But when I was a kid, I used to like reading the Weekly World News and the National Enquirer. And I loved the long form ads that were in those newspapers. And I didn't even realize they were ads. I thought they were articles about amazing things like miraculous health cures and about how to be more successful. And it turns out, as I became an adult and got into the copywriting world, I realized these were ads that were written by the famous Eugene Schwartz, who was a great copywriter from the 1950s and 60s. And I had been reading his work decades after he actually wrote it and been enjoying it and didn't even realize that it was advertising. And that's one of the key things about great copy, I think, is that it provides value in and of itself. You don't read good copy and walk away thinking, well, that was a waste of my time. You read it and get something from it. And then hopefully part of what you get is a desire to buy the thing that's being sold.
So it's kind of like a story that's teaching you something. You don't realize it's actually an ad.
That's a great way to express it. Well done, sir.
Okay. I'm a good student, huh? They're called advertorials, right? Sometimes they call that.
That has been a term that has been coined, and I like the term and I don't like the term because it has a feeling of being like tricky, like some kind of, I've tricked you into thinking it's an ad. Tricked you into thinking it's editorial, but it's really an ad. And I am much more in favor of just being straightforward and letting people know we're talking about my company, my product, or my client's company, or my client's product, but you will get value from what you're about to read. And so we're going to teach you the following 2 things or 3 things or whatever it is we're going to share. And then at the end of the piece, we will ask them to buy. But whether they buy or not, I want people to walk away from having experienced that copy by having gotten value from it.
So if I want to learn how to write copy, I took a few classes, probably 10 or 12 years ago, took the classes, didn't fully implement what I learned, and I kind of stumbled my way through. So if you're telling somebody's beginning, what tips do you have for them?
Well, there's 3 tips I would give you. First of all would be read a lot of good copy. And secondly would be to write a lot of your own copy. Even if nobody ever sees it, just write a lot of it. It's the same rules that apply to good writing. Stephen King in his book On Writing says there's 2 things that are required for you to be a good writer. Number 1 is to read a lot, and number 2 is to write a lot. And if you say that you don't have time for either one of those things, then you're not really serious about writing. And so I think the same thing applies to copywriting. It's just another form of writing. And the third tip would be get a good book. Start with a good book. And I have a book that I think is pretty good. This is it. It's my new book. It's called How to Write Copy That Sells. And even if you don't get my book, there's plenty of other great books. You can get books by Bob Bly and different folks who've written about the art and craft of copywriting. But start with a book that gives you bedrock principles you can count on. And then there's some classic books as well, like John Caples has a book called Tested Advertising Methods. Stellar book. It's kind of dated in its references because they're from the 60s, but still a great book to read.
That's what really intrigues me about copywriting. Every course I talked about or read, they actually talk about advertising in the 1900s, early 1900s, as the classic sales letters, and they still work today.
Yeah, they do. And the reason is, Ted, their psychology doesn't change. We're the same as we were 2,000 years ago. It's interesting. I was reading Epictetus. I've been into reading some of the Stoic philosophers and other philosophers of that era. And you could have been reading something from Jim Rohn. He was writing about the associations we have with other people and how the people we associate with, we tend to adopt their habits and their attitudes and their view of the world. And I thought, wow, this is not a new concept. And then I realized, well, of course it's not new because people psychologically are wired the same way now as they were 2,000 years ago. And that doesn't change. So the principles of copywriting are the same. That's why those books by people like Robert Collier and people like Eugene Schwartz and John Caples and Claude Hopkins, they still work. They still apply because human psychology is the same. Now, one of the challenges that we have with those books is their language sounds very antiquated. So I don't think that I necessarily have invented a lot of new things. I have had a few distinctions that I think are original to me, but it all is because I've built on the shoulders of giants. But my book is written more in modern language, so it's a little bit easier for people to read, and it's also designed to be a reference tool that you can use. You can keep on your desk and use the checklists and the formulas and templates inside to write copy at a moment's notice. And it's great for social media. We live in a social world, right, where we have to be able to get our thoughts across quickly. And like I'm looking at the stream here as people are writing, let's see, Sensible AdSense says, Ray Edwards' book for mouth-watering ideas that will have your customers eating out of your hands. That's fantastic copy, Sensible AdSense. Thank you. That's beautifully written, and it really also demonstrates how you can say so much and be so persuasive in just a few short words in social media.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the things you said was about the older letters, and the style of the writing is very different and the words are different. A lot of the courses I took, they said, look at these old sales letters, they're classic, and just write them out every day, longhand.
Yeah. Yeah, that was good advice. It still is, but one of the dangers of doing that with these old letters is that you could start adapting the language patterns and the idioms of that day. And so then you start writing and you sound like you're 80 years old.
Right.
So what I advise people to do is do that, but also look for successful, effective copy that's being used and written today so you can write that out by hand. And the thing you have to be careful about is just make sure that the copy you are handwriting is actually copy that performed, that actually got results, because it's a little harder to tell these days about what good copy is and what good copy isn't. You can't necessarily just take the word of the person who wrote it. Unfortunately, they may tell you a story about how great it was, but maybe it wasn't so great. Maybe it didn't get results. So you've got to be careful about what copy you're emulating, but writing it out by hand, there's something about getting your nervous system. I think Michael Hyatt says, how does he say this? Thoughts clarify themselves on the lips and on the fingertips or pencil tips. That's it, pencil tips. And so, speaking it out loud, reading it out loud, or writing it on paper or typing it on your computer, however you do it, but just running those words through your nervous system and through your physical body, I think it's kind of like develops muscle memory. It gets you in the mode of thinking and writing and speaking that way.
It's like when you journal in the mornings, writing it out longhand, you sit there and try and type it. It's just not the same. Writing it out, it connects.
Right. Now, Sensible AdSense says three senses and read out loud. It connects your brain, physiology, and sight. Perfect. Exactly right. And
is that your son?
It was Gary Halbert. No, it's not my son. It was Gary Halbert who said that originally, to write those letters out by hand. It was he's the first person I ever heard say it. And it's good advice.
So how have you adapted over when you first started copy, those really long sales letters? They'd go on for pages and pages and pages on a website.
Yeah.
Why did those work?
Well, one reason they work is, and I want to say more about these long sales letters that so many people think of as being kind of hypey and cheesy. I want to say a word about that in a moment. But the reason that they worked, and they still do in many cases, is especially in the case of where you're trying to sell an expensive product, like a training course maybe that's $1,000 or a seminar that's $5,000. Well, people have a lot of questions about a purchase like that. They have a lot of things they want resolved before they part with that hard-earned money. And so you have to answer all the possible questions that somebody might come up with, and you don't know which person is going to come up with which question. So you have to answer all of them, and you have to do it in a way that's interesting and fascinating and that's scannable so people can skip over the sections that don't apply for them. And that's why those sales letters are so long. Now, the ones that look really scammy, the ones with the red highlighter on it and the markers and things like that,
the arrows
pointing to everything. Now that stuff works. First of all, it works more effectively with people who've been trained in direct response copywriting. And think about the psychology behind this. So you are a person who's into this whole old school direct response world. There's teachers out there who this is all they teach is you got to do it the old way, the way we did it in the 60s, because that's the right way to do it. And you learn it from them. And then so as an evaluator of products, you go online and you look and you only think that the products that are good must be the ones that use the techniques you've been taught. So you buy from these old, cheesy, hypey sales letters because you think that's good stuff. And that just reinforces the behavior for these marketers who think, well, look at how well this sales letter converts. People are buying from it. Well, of course, you train them to buy from it. Of course they do. So normal people who live in the real world and who they're not like you and me. They're not nerds about marketing and about being into the old school stuff. Now, I think you are a different sort of cat. You kind of have a foot planted firmly in both worlds. You know the classic direct response techniques, but you also know how to adapt them for today's market and today's technology. That's why you're so great with LinkedIn, and you understand how to use that platform. Well, when you adapt the principles to today's technology and today's communication style, you come up with shorter copy, still longer copy than most people use, but shorter copy. It's not as hypey. It's not as pushy. It's not as over the top, because guess what? People are onto those tricks. You can't trick people into buying things anymore. And if you do trick them, you only trick them once or twice, and then they'll figure your game out and they'll be done with you. So today in the social world, you've got to be above board. You've got to be helpful. You've got to provide useful content. You've got to provide value. Do it as succinctly as possible. And if you do that, people they'll love you. They'll trust you. They'll recommend you to their friends, and they'll buy from you time and time again.
So it's kind of like Yelp. If you have a bad experience with your business on Yelp, it goes viral almost.
Exactly.
And it can hurt you.
It can.
Yeah. So for this 140 character world we live in these days, you just try to grab people's attention there and then lead them to a sales letter?
Well, you can do that. That works. And then also you got video to think about. And people ask me a lot, one of the questions I get most is, well, you're a copywriter. Aren't you worried that video is putting you out of business? And I usually pause for a moment for drama. And then I say, well, who do you think writes the scripts for those videos? Still copy. It's all communication. It's persuasive communication. And so what we have to remember is that it's still copy. It's just, we deliver it differently these days. We deliver it in a combination of text, social signals, video, audio, and we also piecemeal it out. I call it distributed sales communication because it takes place over time and over a variety of different media, but eventually it leads to the same place, that little button that you press after you type in your credit card number.
And what I teach people from LinkedIn or whether it's Twitter, think of having a conversation like we're having now. We're not trying to trick each other. We're just having a normal conversation. Have those same conversations online. You build a relationship and they buy from you.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
So someday the internet won't be here. It'll be something else, but the connection, human connection will still be there.
Something else. I wonder what that something else will be.
Yeah, I know. Well, we won't be around to experience that.
Don't say that.
Who knows?
I'm counting on them inventing the longevity pill before that happens.
But when did Al Gore invent the internet? That was like early 90s.
Working on the immortality thing, I'm sure.
Yeah. So tell me more about what's in your book.
Well, it's if you look at the cover, the subtitle says the step-by-step system for more sales to more customers more often. And this book really is my answer to people who say, Ray, I can't afford to pay your fees, and I'm not ready to buy your big, expensive copywriting training program. So what do I do? And there was a number of books that I could recommend to people, but there wasn't really a book that I felt like gave a comprehensive, systematic set of checklists and bullet points and templates that you could just take and put it on your desk and take it out and say, okay, I need to write some headlines. You turn to the chapter on headlines and you've got examples to follow and formulas to follow. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to give people a tool that they wouldn't just read and say, wow, that's very interesting. It makes me excited about copywriting. I wanted them to have something they could use every day when they're writing blog posts, when they're coming up with titles for those posts, when they're writing tweets or updates on LinkedIn, or when they're writing their sales copy. So that's what this book is all about. Every chapter ends with a checklist of exactly what to do with the information that was in that chapter. And I cover every major component of writing copy that you need to know to sell more effectively and without feeling like a carnival barker while you're doing it.
I love the checklist. You gave us one at that workshop, the live one, where it's just basically, here's the sales letter. Here are the elements of it. And I didn't know that at the time.
Well, and it helps because just like if you're a fiction writer or if you're a movie writer, you probably know there's a story structure that all novels and all great stories and all movies follow. And there are ones that don't follow that structure, and usually they're terrible. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're innovative and they're interesting, but usually that's just a novelty effect. So
right.
Why do stories follow this same sort of outline all the time? Why is it the most successful stories always follow the hero's journey, or they always follow there's about 20 different story forms that are really available to us. There's the revenge story. There's the redemption story. The reason that they follow these forms is because we love those stories. They represent something archetypal inside, wired into our brains and our bodies, that we love to hear those stories over and over again. And it's the same thing with sales copy. It follows an archetypal structure that is not just about selling things. It's about persuading people. If you want to communicate persuasively, you're using these principles, whether you know it or not, because it's built into your human nature.
So you give us the answers, the structure, which just leads us to write our own stories.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Yeah. Yeah. So first time I wrote my book, my first copy of the book, I'd never written a book before. And I'm like, I had no idea where to start. So I went to Amazon, bought a bunch of other LinkedIn books, saw what their structure was.
There you go.
And just followed that structure. So your book has those structures built into it. I love that, the checklists, I have to say.
Thank you.
So if somebody's thinking of doing videos even, this would be helpful.
Oh, absolutely. Because, if you're doing a sales video, and like people who follow me know that I sell training programs and seminars and workshops and live experiences like that. And I almost always sell those using video, but the video itself is copy. So I write it out just like I was going to write a sales letter that would be printed on a page. And in fact, we do both things now. We have the video available, and then we have the text, because some people will only respond to the video, and some people will only respond to the text, and some people actually feel like they need both before they can make a decision. So I want to give them every possible combination so that they can experience the material in whatever way they need to help them make a decision.
I even create audios now because a lot of people listen on their phone on the way to work.
Yeah, and it's so easy now. When you export the video file, you can just export an MP3 file along with it. And so you've got audio and video, you've got text on the web. I also recommend actually making a PDF version of your sales material or your ebook or your report or whatever you are generating, so that they have it in every available format. I mean, if it's in PDF, they can put it on their Kindle. And a lot of people like to read this material on the Kindle or on their iPad. So give them the medium that they want to experience your material in, and that will go a long way toward persuading them to do what you're asking them to do.
And it's so easy these days with the tools. 10 years ago, it was very hard to do all this, but
yeah.
Now
I remember when video first started, and it seems, gosh, it was 10 years ago. We were in such a backward state, it seems like. So it makes me wonder, in 10 years from now, what will we be doing? Probably be making holographic blabs.
Have something, yes. We'll be we are virtually connected now. So if anyone has questions for Ray, it's /Q, or you can jump on Open Seat here.
Sure. I'd love to talk to people if you want to jump on and say hi.
Yeah. Somebody was jumping on earlier.
We scared.
So what else is going on with you, Ray? I know you've been pretty busy writing books and launching courses and
writing books, launching courses, and we're actually working on some new frameworks for people who want to create their own training courses and products online, because there's so many people that, especially in the boomer generation, who are 50 and over, who are going into like a second act, a second part of their life. They've done one career, and now they either just want to do something else because they're bored with retirement, or maybe their retirement went down the drain with the stock market. And so they got to figure out now, what do I do for income? And while being a greeter at Walmart is an honorable thing to do, it's probably not your first choice. So the good news is the internet allows you to be a worldwide business in about an hour. And all you have to do is register a domain name and install WordPress, and you're cranking. Yeah. Sensible has a question. Ray, conversion rates on video these days, are they higher than long copy you find? In general, yes. But just remember, the video is long copy. It's just visual and spoken. But it also depends on the market that you're selling to. If you're selling to writers, for instance, you have to give them text because that's their preferred way of operating. So they have to see the sales letter.
Yeah, give them what they want.
Sensible's asking you about what was your experience like writing with Perry Marshall?
Well, Perry, he's a great guy. He's just amazing guy.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, he actually didn't want to write the LinkedIn book with me. We were supposed to write it together. But he said, I don't even have a LinkedIn account, so I really can't put my name on that book. You just write the book. So
That's hilarious.
yes. No. I have a question. Back in the day, Dan Kennedy was a big fan, or Bill Glazer. Swipe files, where I used to subscribe to all this stuff so I'd get all this mail. And I had boxes and boxes of sales letters.
Yeah.
Is that a good technique still?
It still is. You have to use swipe files appropriately. Here, hang on. So you can see I've got a shelf full of binders back there, and my binders are full of swipe files.
Swipe files.
Swipe copy. So it looks like the pages are blank, but they're not. So you can see I've got all this copy in here. So the thing about swipe files is people think that, and this, by the way, this is the swipe files from the Titans of Direct Response event. This was a fantastic event that it's past now. You can buy the online version. Brian Kurtz actually put this thing together back in 2014. Oh my gosh, really? Time flies. It was a fantastic event, and he had all these Titans of Direct Response. Dan Kennedy was there, and Jay Abraham was there, and we got all this swipe copy. But what you have to remember is you can't just take it and like do a word search and replace their name with your name and their product with your product. That will not work. What you're doing with the swipe files is you're reading copy that you know was effective, and you're studying, well, how is this structured, and how do they present the idea, and how do they lay out the facts, and is there wording or a way of approaching like the guarantee or the benefits description that I find I could adapt to my own situation? So that's the right way to use swipe copy. And a lot of people do the word search replace thing, and it just doesn't work because they don't even understand why the copy worked to begin with. And that's what you have to understand before you can actually use a swipe. And again, I've said this like 3 times. I sound like a broken record. If you're going to use copy as a model, make sure it worked.
Right. And how do you find that out when you know people always exaggerate their sales numbers?
Well, there's a couple of ways you can do it. If you're studying copy that you see like in a magazine, for instance, which there's still plenty of magazine copy that's long form copy. That's easy because all you got to do is go to the library or look at your back issues of your magazine. If it's been running for a year or more repeatedly, people don't keep spending money on something that doesn't work. So if you see like Stour sells jewelry and watches and things like that, and you'll see them. They used to be in the in-flight magazine, Sky Mall, which that went out of business. But you'll find Stour ads still in the airline magazines, and the reason is they're really great. They're really great copy. So that's some ad copy that you can be assured actually works. And then you can study newspaper ads. But when it comes to the internet, you've got to be just kind of careful. And you can one way to do it is there's a couple of services that provide background on. I think one of them is AdBeat. I'll have to look. Yeah. They provide an analysis on what ads are working and what ads are not. And it can be a little spendy, but it's a great idea to invest in something like that if this is how you make your livelihood. So
What Runs Where is another one of those services.
That's the one I was trying to think of. They're both great, but what runs where is absolutely outstanding because you got a big library you can search. So this question came in: which book above all, apart from yours, would you recommend apart from the ones already mentioned? That's a lot of aparts.
Yeah.
I don't think I actually mentioned by name. Hold on.
So you keep your library handy.
I do. What's the point of having it if you can't access it?
Exactly.
This is a book that is, it's powerful, but it was actually intended to protect people from being manipulated. So do not use this book that I'm about to show you for the purposes of evil. Do not do it. It's called
I've got that one
by Robert Cialdini. And this is a science where they prove how we are influenced to behave the way we do. And like Tom Peters calls this the best researched book ever on this topic. Robert Cialdini would have predicted 10 years ago the power of permission marketing on the web. And this book really breaks down, there's 6 core bedrock principles about why we do the things we do, how we're influenced to do them. And this book is extraordinarily powerful, so I would definitely recommend reading it. Just be careful with it. It's like a loaded weapon.
It's a classic.
Yeah.
It is. And what else do you have in your library there? Anything?
Oh my gosh.
And if everybody has questions or wants to jump in the hot seat, go ahead. We'll let you ask Ray some questions. We can add you to the Brady Bunch setup here.
I'm going to give you a tour of some of the best things in my library. I've already mentioned this book, Tested Advertising Methods by the illustrious John Caples.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic book. This book, I'm sure you're familiar with, Ted. It's by our mutual friend, Perry Marshall, 80/20 Sales and Marketing. I consider this to be required reading if you're marketing anything. Just get this book. You need to get it. It will help you understand the definitive guide to working less and making more is the subtitle.
Yeah.
Perry Marshall knows how to write him some copy.
Yes.
Here's a book on launching online products by my friend Jeff Walker. This is amazing because Jeff really takes the core of what's in his $2,000 training program and just put it into a book. And he's not afraid to do it because there's still people who, even though they read the book, they're going to realize I need some more hands-on training on how to do this stuff. So they're going to go to his website and they're going to sign up for his training programs. And that's one of the things about operating in today's market. Like I have done the same thing with my book. I put many of my best ideas are in this book. How to write copy that sells. Well, you might say, well, why would you do that? Because now people don't need you to teach them in courses or work with them in workshops. Sure they do. I mean, it's the same reason that Tony Robbins can sell Awaken the Giant Within for $11 on Amazon, or you can go to Fiji and spend $10,000 to spend a week with him because people want the immersive experience. So we've already mentioned Influence by Cialdini. Then I just want people to know I actually do walk my talk. This is Claude Hopkins, My Life in Advertising and Scientific Advertising, a classic, a perennial classic. You should probably read this once a year or so, just to remind yourself of where we all come from.
I just started reading that the other day again for the third time.
So now I'm about to show you the book that if I could only buy one book on writing effective sales copy other than my own, this is the book that I would, if you said you could only have one more for the rest of your life, this is the book that I would choose. It's called Breakthrough Advertising, and it's by Eugene Schwartz. And it's expensive because it went out of print for a long time, and now I think it's like $100. But you can find it on Amazon, and it's worth 10 times that much, really. This is an incredible book. It is not light reading. You don't sit down and read this in an afternoon, but it's well worth the effort that's required. And then another book that goes into this same category, this would be probably my next book that I would choose, is this one by Dick Benson. It's called Secrets of Successful Direct Mail. And you might say, well, direct mail, that's old-fashioned marketing. Well, first of all, it still works like crazy because I know your inbox is full of stuff these days and we're all working to get to inbox zero. Guess what inbox is not full of competition anymore? Your mailbox. So
right.
If you want to stand apart, send people some actual mail. They'll be amazed and astounded. I actually got mail from Ted. What happened? And you can also transfer the principles that are in Benson's book to the web, to online marketing.
Yeah, it's really easy to get people's attention when you send them something in the mail. It is true.
Yeah.
My swipe file is not growing as fast as it used to be.
Well, you know what? I tell people this. You don't actually need a huge swipe file. You just need a good one.
Yeah.
If you got 10 good pieces in your swipe file, that's enough to last you for a long time.
Yeah, because I just use it to trigger ideas.
Exactly.
You can't, like you said, you can't copy the copy exactly and change a few words.
No.
So. Okay, anybody else have any questions for Ray? There's just so many things I could ask you, but I don't want to hog the seat here.
Step right up, folks. The floor is yours.
Yeah.
Somebody said they're going to order your book. That's cool.
Yep.
Well, order my book too. Order 5 or 10 copies so you can give some.
So where do we get your book, Ray?
Well, there's 2 ways to do it. You can order it from Amazon and you can pay $17. Well, actually, I think they're selling it for $15 because you know how Amazon is. They take the retail price and they discount it. And I have no control over that, by the way.
Right.
But you can also go to WCTSbook.com. So that stands for Write Copy That Sells, WCTSbook.com. And you can get the book for free. You just pay for the shipping charge. It's about $7. And some people will say, well, it doesn't cost $7 to ship a book. It does if you're paying somebody else to put it in the box and label it and handle it and take it to the postal facility and mail it for you. It actually cost me about $18 a book to have that sent to you. So I'm not making a dime on your $7, I promise you. But later I will try to sell you other things.
That's what I paid to get mine sent out. It cost me about $18. I sent it out for $7. Same thing.
Hey, great minds think alike.
Yeah. No, I've got mine on order. I can't wait to get it.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, sir.
So when you started writing these, you got some big clients really quickly as a copywriter.
Yeah.
How did you do that?
Well, it started by going to live events. There was a guy, many people watching this maybe have not heard of Mike Littman, but he is really well known in certain circles, especially in the motivational speaking circle. He was putting on these seminars. He was one of the first people to hire me to write copy when I was coming out of radio. And I had no idea what to charge. And so he was getting the deal of a lifetime from me. And it took me a while to figure it out. But I give him credit for, he kind of coached me up on, you need to be charging more money. And then when he made me ask for it. And then I was kind of mealy-mouthed about it. And he said, all right, Ray, just say it. Tell me how much it's going to be. And so I credit him with coaching me on raising my rates for the first time. But I went to his event. I got so excited about the copy that I wrote for the seminar he was putting on. It was called Success Mania.
Ooh.
And, there was a lot of well-known speakers that were at that event. And I thought, I want to go meet these guys. So I went and I bought the upgraded ticket. Usually at these kinds of events, they offer an upgraded ticket so you can have dinner with and hang out and network with the speakers. So I thought, well, I want to do that because these are the guys I want to know and the ladies that I want to know. And I went into the room and where they were having this dinner, and the first thing I noticed was not many people had bought that ticket, which I thought, well, that's dumb. You're here. Why would you not spend the extra $100 or whatever it is to meet with the most influential people in the building? So, but I thought, well, good news for me because it's less competition for their time. I can talk to everybody. And I did. And I ended up writing some copy for a couple of people that were at that event. There were speakers there, and then they recommended me to their friends, and I did a good job. So I ended up writing for people like, some folks may remember these names, some may not, but Armand Morin and Alex Mondosian. These guys are still cranking away, have fantastic businesses. But the market has gotten so big now that there's all these different segments. There's like the social media market, and there's the internet marketing market, and then there's the 19-year-old internet marketing market that's filled with kids, making $1 billion out of their basement. And then there's the 50 to 60-year-old internet marketing market. It's just all broken up into these different segments. And so it was through the connection through Alex that I ended up writing for Jack Canfield and Mark Victor Hansen, and they were the Chicken Soup for the Soul guys. They have since sold that for like $20 billion or some crazy. Wasn't 20 billion. It was, I think, 23 million, I think.
It was a lot.
It was a lot. It was enough that I don't worry about them making their rent payment anymore. Tony Robbins and Frank Kern. And I've recently had the good fortune to hang out and do some work with people like Dan Miller and Michael Hyatt and Amy Porterfield. And it's been a good ride. And, the fun part is learning that people are the same, whatever level of success they may be at. They're really no different than you or me. They have the same concerns, the same insecurities, the same foibles. I just like using the word foibles, so I look for a chance to do it whenever I can. And to be able to see inside their businesses and see how they do things and what works and what doesn't, that has been fascinating and a great education that I got paid to learn. So lucky me.
I think what you said is really important, that you need to invest in yourself and in your business and go to these events and pay for the extra ticket to meet these people.
Right. And, not only that, I mean, so like Jeff Walker is a good example. He started selling product launch formula in, I think it was 2007. And it was $1,000, which at the time, that was like the most expensive thing anybody was selling in terms of a training program. Mm-hmm. And I was one of the first people, I think I was maybe the fifth or sixth person to buy it. And I decided, I had learned from Armand and Alex, they taught me this. The way to get the attention of the influencers that you want to notice you is buy their training program. And if they have an upgraded level, buy that, and then be their best testimonial. They will pay attention to you if you're their best testimonial or one of their best testimonials. So I always worked hard to be a good student and to give demonstrable results that I could share with the people who made the course. And then they shared it with other people. And then they took my phone calls.
It's not hard.
No, it's not.
I just became really good friends with Alex Mondosi, and I've known him for years on, from afar. And he lives like 5 miles from me.
Well, you tell
So,
Alex that Ray said hello. He's one of the dearest people I know. He's just a fantastic human being.
yeah, we have coffee every couple of weeks now and just get together. It's our little mini mastermind.
That's awesome.
But I wanted to get his attention, so I mailed him my books with a little handwritten note. And he didn't respond at first. And then I was on his list, and he was having a traffic contest. He said, if you could drive traffic to this offer, I'll pay you so many cents per click. So I spent a couple $100, drove a bunch of traffic. I won the contest. And he called me like 5 minutes later on my cell phone. Says, hey, let's get together for coffee. And that's how I did it.
That will do it. There's a gentleman named Nathan Lotka who wanted to get my attention. And he sent me an email and said, I've been reading your book. I think it's fantastic. And so I'm going to promote it to my email list. And it's currently at number, whatever the rank was on Amazon. And he said, let's see what happens. And then at the end of the day, he sent me a follow-up report and said, well, you're now at number 300 out of all books on Amazon or something crazy like that. So he had my attention. We got on the phone and talked. It doesn't, if you serve first, it's interesting how people open up and are happy to talk with you and get to know you. Oh,
yeah.
Somebody's calling in.
Somebody's calling in. Okay, here we go. Adrian.
Hello, Adrian.
Hello, Adrian.
Adrian, you're on.
We don't see you.
Wonder if Adrian knows.
Yeah. Adrian? I guess Adrian doesn't know they're on.
Guess not.
Nope. Okay. Okay. Well, if anyone has any more questions here.
It's live. There's somebody.
There's Jonathan. There we go.
I'm a bit dark, am I? Oh, God.
Hi, Jonathan. Welcome.
Oh, hi there, guys. Just got a quick question for Ray. When it comes to online sales copy, have you got any insights of a couple fundamental mistakes you see people making?
Yes. I'll tell you what the biggest mistake is. If you can correct this mistake, you will instantly improve your copy by probably 100x. And that is, people write copy about themselves or about their product instead of writing about the problem that the person you're writing to is trying to solve. So if you can put yourself in their shoes and write from their point of view about what matters to them using their words and their language for how they describe their problem, it will make enormous strides toward making your copy more effective. And then the second thing I see people do that I think is a huge mistake is they try to write copy that looks like what they think copy is supposed to look like. So they have the huge headline that's like 100 words long. We jokingly call them mega headlines around here. Oh, look, it's a mega headline. Just talk to people in human language, like they're humans, and talk to them in a way that is significant and that uses their emotions and their feelings to talk about what's important to them. And you can break all the other rules of copywriting, but if you do those two things, you'll still have good success.
Oh, thanks for that. That was great stuff, Ray. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right, I'll be off. Let's let somebody else in.
Thank you, Jonathan. Appreciate you very much.
Yeah, so don't be afraid to make mistakes, but learn from your mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like anything in life, right? Practice makes perfect.
And who was it? I think Lou Holtz said only, I shouldn't say that. That's just going to discourage people. Well, never mind.
Never mind. Okay. Any other questions for Ray, or we'll just wrap it up? And where do we get the book in? It's wctsbook.com.
Yes.
And then we will have opportunities to invest with you some more.
You'll get that opportunity if you wish.
No, I highly recommend everything you do because you are a man of integrity. You are just provide incredible value. I've learned so much from you.
Oh, thank you so much. Oh, Joseph.
Yeah.
thank you for ordering the book. Appreciate that very much.
And here's some sensible AdSense says, and attending seminars, you pick up gold nuggets. You always pick up something in a seminar.
Yeah, you go, from a book or a seminar or a blab, if you go expecting to learn something, chances are you will. I think we tend to pretty much find what we expect. And let's see, great, Sensible says great blab.
Don't go to events expecting to sell your services. Go there expecting to learn and meet people.
Yeah, and make friends. I mean, I know that's hard when you need to pay the rent or the light bill. But I promise you that if you will focus on making friends and actually helping people, if you have skills that can help people, so many seminars I go to, I just sit down with people and look at their website and offer them feedback on their copy or ideas. I'm not looking for business. I'm just trying to make friends and help people. And business inevitably comes my way, which these days I turn away because I'm too busy to write copy for other people. But I just love meeting people. I always learn something from everybody I meet. So going to real events in the real world, meeting real people is hugely important and valuable.
Gets you out of our little man caves.
Yeah. Or woman caves.
Our wives appreciate when we go to these events for a few days, right? Well, Ray, thank you for your time. This has been great.
Well,
it's good catching up with you.
Thank you, Ted. It was good catching up with you. I'm so glad you invited me to do this. Thanks to everybody for your questions and your comments. And I appreciate you so much.
And follow Ray's blog, his podcast. You got one of the top podcasts out there for business. What is your podcast?
It's humbly named The Ray Edwards Show. So if you go to iTunes and you search for The Ray Edwards Show, you'll find it. We have fun. My son does the podcast with me, and I think we have a good time, and people seem to respond well to it. So it's one of the most fun things I do. So even if nobody else likes it, I'm going to keep doing it.
Follow everything Ray does, and you'll get incredible value, and you'll learn a lot. He's an amazing guy.
Oh, thank you, Ted. I appreciate that very much.
Okay. Thanks, Ray. Have a great weekend.
All right. You too, Ted, and everybody else. See you.